cancer, but have you guys ever wondered what exactly causes it? What if I were to tell you that some of the things that you're around every day could someday be the cause of your cancer diagnosis? The names of these things would be carcinogens. According to the United States Department of Health and Human Services, approximately 1.6 million people are diagnosed with cancer in the United States each year. After hearing these numbers, I'm sure that cancer has affected some of us in this room in some way, shape, or form. With that being said, learning as much as we can about carcinogens and how they affect us can help us to avoid cancer as best as we can. Through the continuous research of cancer, carcinogens and how they affect the human body have become a significant topic of study. Today I will inform you on carcinogens by first explaining to you what they are, second, telling you some places where you can find them, and third, explaining some of their effects. So let's start off by explaining what they are. Carcinogens, by definition, are substances or exposures that can lead to cancer. There are many known and probable carcinogens that have been studied as of today. Cancer.org lists over 100 known carcinogens, including tobacco in all its forms, formaldehyde, wood dust, and tar. Although some of the things on this list are chemicals we've never heard about, some of them are things that we're exposed to daily, like sunlight or cigarette smoke. In order for a scientist to define something as a carcinogen, they must follow a list of specific procedures and principles, which makes sense because we don't want them to be able to just call anything a carcinogen, right? In August of 2005, the United States Environmental Protection Agency, or the EPA, issued a list of procedures and principles in which to guide scientists and also others in assessing cancer risk from environmental exposures. So now, when a scientist wants to define something as a carcinogen, they must submit all findings to the EPA so that it can conduct the same study. Once they decide it's a carcinogen, they then classify it by how dangerous it is. So this set the bar for pretty extensive research. The EPA also did a study on the exact effect of exposure in children from birth to 16 years of age, which is a critical part in our development. So now that you guys know what they are, let's take a look at some places where you can find them. It may come as a surprise to you when I say that there are certain things that I'm sure each of you have encountered that have been identified as possible carcinogens. The first of these is household cleaning products. According to an article in Organic Gardening by Diana Ernie, it has been found that 1,4-dioxane, a chemical that has been labeled as a probable human carcinogen, is present in most household cleaning products. But before you go home and empty out your cabinets, know that 1,4-dioxane does not accumulate in your body, but is metabolized and released in your urine and breath. In the same article, she quoted Stephen Askin, a consultant to the cleaning industry. He stated that the amount of contamination in these products is not alarming. However, the accumulated effect of using them over long periods of time is. So hotel cleaning staff, hospital cleaning staff, those types of people would have cause for concern. Another carcinogen that I'm sure we all keep very dear to our hearts, because I know I do, is the cell phone. In a June 2011 article in Time magazine, author Brian Walsh lists that the Internal Agency for Research on Cancer, or the IARC, has listed cell phone radiation exposure as a possible human carcinogen. So this upsets me because I'm on my cell phone all the time, except for in this class, don't worry. The cell phone industry argued, stating that brain cancer rates have not risen in the past 2 decades in which cell phones have been prevalent. However, they voiced no opposition to continue research over the next few decades after people have been using them for longer periods of time. So they're not denying that there may be a problem, just later. So now you guys know what carcinogens are and have seen just a couple places where you can find them. Now let's take a closer look at their effects. What each and every carcinogen has in common is that it's going to eventually cause cancer, right? Do you guys remember the numbers I gave you earlier? Think of all of the carcinogens that could have caused all that cancer, aside from the ones that were genetically inherited. The ability of some carcinogens to cause cancer depends on the amount of exposure and also the time in a person's life in which they were exposed. The environment, no. according to Environmental Health Perspectives, which is an academic journal, susceptibility of cancer is increased after early life exposure to a carcinogen. And, hold on. Susceptibility of cancer is increased after early life exposure to a carcinogen. After the carcinogen is exposed to you, the disease then begins its course. A May 2011 article in Time magazine describes cancer as a war within the human body, which it certainly is. The irony of this deadly disease is almost as hard to understand as how or why it forms in the first place. Excuse me. The reason why our human bodies work so well is because it's a product of all of our organs and systems working together. Once one part is damaged, we may be able to sustain for a little while, but after it takes its toll, death will occur. So after all the information that I've shared with you today, I will now summarize what we talked about. First, carcinogens are substances and exposures that can lead to cancer. Second, there are many known carcinogens around us in our everyday lives. And finally, a carcinogen's mechanism is to enter a cell and alter its DNA. Through the continuous research of cancer, carcinogens and how they affect the body have become a significant topic of study. We may not always think about the things that we use or are exposed to daily, but after what I've told you today, hopefully you guys have a better understanding of the long-term effects that some things can have on us. Once we gain a better understanding of cancer and how it's formed, then we'll be able to figure out better ways to prevent it and even find its cure.